and had requested that a full autopsy be performed with a particular focus on the head wound that was on John's head, and that the note found in John's apartment be examined for forgeries. It was our understanding that John's case was open and that all concerns and requests would be addressed. Before leaving that meeting, I remember asking Detective Fargy when John's body would be released to us. And he said December 11th. Instantly, I thought that time frame's too fast, particularly since we had just shed new insight into the findings. How could a full forensic autopsy be performed in that time frame? I didn't speak up at that point. I thought to myself, let these people do their job. This is what they do. My parents thought the same. Much later, we learned that the concerns and requests made to Detective Fargy had been dismissed. We were shocked when we were told that John's case was closed. It had been closed since the afternoon of December 9th, 2001, and that an autopsy had not been performed. We had been misled, and the police and coroner again had failed John. I am frustrated and disappointed with how my brother's case was and is currently being handled. From the moment my family was notified of John's death, we were never accommodated and continually dismissed when we raised concerns or requested a particular action. The entire process is intolerable and disturbing. I have watched my parents fight a system that is supposed to be designed to help us. The coroner's office has labeled my brother's case a low priority. On December 6, 2002, I personally met with Dr. Evans, the regional coroner of Toronto West, to discuss why my brother's case was a low priority. My question was not answered. Instead, I was told that his office investigates a large number of deaths per year and that the whole process takes time. A young, bright, professional student who is already a large contributor to society is a low priority when he dies violently? Who is a priority? John was a good person with an excellent background. He was a man of integrity, honor, a person who would do what was best for others. Prior to John's death, it was my impression that the police and coroner would do the same. It is their job to protect and defend individuals like my brother. It is their job to determine the truth regarding how he died. Much to my surprise and horror, no one has really questioned who this young man was and why this young man died. No one really cared who this young man was. Because a systematic, complete investigation was never performed, all conclusions regarding my brother's death were based on incorrect evidence, fabricated stories, and assumptions. In the absence of evidence, the coroner's office cannot logically arrive at a cause of death. I was one of the last people to speak with John. He was studying for his exams. He was well organized and focused. He talked to me about his study plans and about how much he was looking forward to coming home for Christmas and spending time with his family. His last words to me were, "I'll call you tomorrow to make sure you're okay." I support and I stand by my parents. We are speaking here today because John no longer can. We are not giving up because John would never give up. We are requesting that the MPPs and the Ontario legislature support our family so that the laws of this province are upheld. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Runciman. I am truly grateful for his support and for his willingness to act when he saw that a great injustice had been done. Thank you. My father will now speak.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm here today with my wife Gloria, and my daughter Sarah, our daughter Sarah. But missing from this table is our son John, who had his life stolen from him in as shocking and brutal circumstances. John was 22 years of age when he died in the early morning hours of December 9, 2001. Throughout the past 8 years, we've worked at providing information to the public institutions which are mandated to serve us all. Both the Office of the Chief Coroner and the Toronto Police Services have demonstrated that they are not capable of determining John's cause of death because they did not follow the established laws and protocols when examining a sudden, suspicious, unexplained death. The Coroners Act of Ontario requires that any individual who suspects that a deceased person has died from suspicious causes shall immediately notify a coroner or a police officer. On December the 9th, 2001, the day John was killed, we had evidence that demonstrated that John had died of violence. The police refused to meet with us. The coroner refused to meet with us. John's death investigation was closed within hours of his death, and this was a breach of the Coroners Act of Ontario. We would later discover from the police notes that the responding officer assumed John was dead when in fact John was alive. The officer formulated a cause of death at the scene without a proper investigation. He breached 1. The police protocols from the Toronto Police Policy and Procedure Manual. 2. The Coroners Act of Ontario. 3. The June 2000 Protocol for Sudden Death. And 4. The Beckon Test. We have a number of questions that have never been answered. Why was the responding officer, who could not tell whether John was alive or dead, allowed to establish the cause of death? Why was the Toronto Police Services in such a hurry to close John's case? The Chief Coroner of Ontario, Dr. James Young, established the June 2000 protocol to prevent police officers and coroners from establishing a cause of death at the scene without first gathering and reviewing all the available evidence. Further, the protocol recommended that undetermined be used as a cause of death so that the file could remain open. In John's case, the file was closed almost immediately, and undetermined was never considered as a cause of death, and the case has never been reopened. Chief Coroner Young knew that his protocol had been breached. Why was the Office of the Chief Coroner allowed to breach this established protocol? The Beckon Test was a court case between Chief Coroner Dr. Young and Beckon. Dr. Young lost this court case, and the court mandated that clear, cogent evidence must exist prior to a death determination. This was to ensure the integrity and thoroughness of all death investigations in the province. The death determination that was assigned to John cannot legally be used because there is no clear evidence to support it. However, the evidence contained in the coroner's file for John supports a suspicious death, most likely a homicide. We never thought it possible that we would be put into the position we have found ourselves, where the laws and standards of the province are ignored by police and coroners. The death investigation is so flawed that the Ontario government cannot produce the original medical certificate of death, a certificate to bury, and the entire death investigation file from the 9th of December 2001 into January of 2002 is missing. In addition, the supervising coroner was absent. Where are these documents, and where is the supervising coroner's report? Over the past 8 years, the Ontario government and its oversight bodies have received information which made John's death suspicious. The Fifth Estate documentary called A Knock on the Door aired in January of 2006. It raised serious questions regarding how John's death investigation was conducted. An update summary of that evidence is contained on this CD. That same information will be found on a website, www.aquestionoftrust.com.